This is the practical schedule of our rapid application development course, and here we use this website. I discussed this section, and then I asked you to complete these 3 sections at home. After that, I discussed this section, then this section I discussed. After that, again I asked you to complete these 3 sections at home. Then I discussed events, and in today's video I am going to discuss classes and objects. Okay, now let's go to our website. There, now I discussed this section completely. Then I asked you to do this section, and this section at home. Since you have already learned C programming in the first year without any difficulty, you can actually self-study these 3 sections. Okay, this one, and this one. Then I completely discussed this particular section, and then I completely discussed this section as well. After that, I asked you to complete methods, understanding arrays, and string manipulation. These 3 sections I asked you to complete at home. Then I discussed event section, and in this video I am going to discuss classes and objects. Now let's begin. Classes and objects in C#.NET. C#.NET is an object-oriented programming language. Okay, so now I know that you already learn a subject called object-oriented programming, and there you learn Java. So now at this moment you have some idea about object-oriented programming. Okay, C#.NET is an object-oriented programming language. Objects are created from classes which you already used a lot. The Windows form itself is a class. That means Windows form, it is a class. Okay, and when you run your program, you are creating objects, a form objects. That means there is an inbuilt class called form. From that form we create an object. Okay, a button object, a text box object, etc. That means there is an inbuilt class called button. From that we can create any number of button objects. Okay, that is what you understand by class and object. In this section you will learn how to write your own classes and turn them into objects. First and explanation. Okay, then let's see. What is a class? A class is simply a chunk of code that does a particular job. You might have a class that handles all your database work. For example, for one that does error checking on text boxes. Okay, okay, so that means actually a class is simply a chunk of code that does a particular job. For the time being you understand it in that way. For an example, you might have a class that handles all your database work. Okay, you create a particular class to handle all your database work. For example, or one that for example, that is one particular example. You can create a particular class to handle your database work. Another example, one that does error checking on text boxes. Okay, if you have several text boxes on your form, you can create a separate class in order to check the errors on in these in these text boxes. Okay, the idea is that you can reuse this code, okay, class whenever you need it or when you need it in other projects. It saves you from having to write the same thing over and over again. One particular advantage of using classes is, I discussed that there is an inbuilt class called button. Then using that you can create any number of button objects. Then that the same class we reuse to create button objects. Okay, that's what is explained in this paragraph. Think of a class as a recipe. If you had a recipe for a delicious banana cake, the recipe will tell you what you need to do to make the cake. Okay, so using the recipe you can it will tell you how to make the cake, but it's not the cake itself, something like that. Class is object is something like that. It's the instructions for the cake. If you have the recipe, you can make banana cakes whenever you need them. Using another simple example, I will explain this. Let's think, suppose that we are going to create an information system for our university. Okay, for our university. Then in the university you can identify student class. Okay, now if you identify student class, that is the class, then from that student class we can create student objects. Student objects means Kamal, Nimal, Namal, Nayana, Saman. Likewise you can create student objects. Therefore, if you consider the student class itself, it is just a concept. Okay, we can create an object from that student class. Okay, a class is something like that. Then what is an object? An object is the thing that the recipe makes, the banana cake itself. You do all the coding in a class and then instruct C# to make an object. The two processes are different. Okay, then the recipe and the banana cake. Banana cake, if you create a banana cake, that is the object. Recipe is the class. Okay, but all you are really doing with classes and objects is trying to separate code into chunks so that it can be reused. The other advantage is rather than coding everything in a single script, using classes you can easily separate your code into chunks, and then you can easily manage them. Not only that, if you need any class from that existing classes, you can reuse them. Okay, that kind of advantages are there. When the code is being used, it's an object, but the object is created from your code class. Okay, let's get some practice. So don't worry if you do not understand this. Okay, so don't worry, then soon you will understand when we move forward in this video. A first class in C#.NET. Okay, very first class we are going to create. The first class that you will create is a very simple one and won't be that much used in the real world, but it will show you how classes are structured and how objects are created from classes. All our class will do is display happy birthday message. Okay, so we just create a class that displays happy birthday message. Okay, so this is just to teach you the concept of classes. Otherwise this kind of a class is actually most of the time useless in real world. Anyway, now let's try to understand the concept first. So start a new project and add a button to your form. Then let's start our Visual Studio IDE. We start a forms application. Let's save our work in the same folder we were saving our work. Okay, now here let's give the name classes1, any name you could have given. Okay, now we add a button. Okay, now let's go to Common Windows Forms. There you can find button. We add the button to our form. We will use the button later. To add new class to your program, click the project menu at the top of C# from the project menu. Select add class. So here we go to project, then you can click add class. Okay, now you can see this one. You should see the add new item dialog box popping up. Select the class itself from the available templates. In the name box at the bottom, type this happy birthday.cs. Now we have selected the class. Okay, so the name, now you can see extension is .cs. Okay, in our class extension is .cs. Let's give the name happy birthday according to this website. Now our class is happy birthday.cs. We add it. Okay, then click the add button on the dialog box. You should see all the default code for your class appear. Users of earlier versions of Visual Studio may see fewer using statements. Anyway, now here you can see. Okay, so now another thing, now we are inside the namespace classes one. Okay, this is the name we have given to our project, and this is our class. This between these two braces are still empty. We have not added anything to our class. Okay, happy birthday, that is the name of the class, and the color stands for a class. This particular color by default in Visual Studio IDE, this color stands for a class. Okay, and yes, Windows application 1 was the default name when we created a new project. If we had change the default project name to say birthday, then it would have said namespace birthday. A namespace is where classes are grouped together. System is a namespace, as to our collections, generics and text. Okay, here there is a mistake. Actually here in this website this should be corrected as class example. Okay, this is the name they have given according to this screenshot. This is the name they have given to their namespace, and now their project, the name they have given to their project. Here for my project I have created, I gave the name happy birthday. Now not sorry, I gave the name classes 1. Okay, so here you can see namespace classes 1. This is the name I have given to the project. Then a namespace is where classes are grouped together. That means using a namespace we can group classes. So in Java you may have learnt about packages. For the time being, think namespace just as a package. Okay, for the time being. Okay, then using a namespace we can group classes together. System is a namespace. Now if you see here system is a namespace. Okay, now that is an inbuilt namespace. Then collections, generic, text, likewise we have several namespaces. Here collections is also a namespace, generic is also a namespace. That means inside the system namespace you have collections namespace, inside that we have generic namespace, and inside the generic namespace you can have a set of classes. Inbuilt, these are inbuilt namespaces, and inside the generic namespace you can have several you can have classes. Okay, definitely there are classes because this is an inbuilt namespace. Now notice that the solution explorer on the right is showing your class. Now if you look at the solution explorer, now a new item has appeared here, happy birthday.cs. there it shows this symbol is for a class. Okay, and the name of the class. The class called happybirthday.cs is now an item under form1.cs. The .cs extension means that the file is a class. Okay, always when you see the .cs extension you can understand it is a class. Form1.cs that means it is also a class. Okay, the class code is stuff that C# created for us though was this. So you start with the word class followed by a space. The name of your class comes next, followed by a pair of curly brackets. All the code for your class goes between the two curly brackets. Okay, so all the code for our class goes in between these two curly brackets. Let's see, later we will include some code in between these two curly brackets. Let's add a simple message to the class. What we'll do is to create a method in the class that displays a message. So add this to your code. Now we are going to add a method to our class. Okay, public, so that is an access modifier. If you have learned Java properly, then I ask you to watch some videos I had prepared for Java programming, object-oriented programming in Java. There you have come across this public keyword, that is an access modifier in Java. In Java we have private, public, protected, three keywords for access modifiers. Then if we do not specify any access modifier, then in Java it is considered as default access. It is considered as having default access. And in C# also there are several access modifiers. Now here public, now you know, as in Java, public means okay, so you have to understand there is a little difference between the access modifiers in Java and C#. Later we will discuss that. Anyway, for the time being you think that public is just an access modifier. Then string means the return type of our method. And also in Java we do not have a data type, primitive data type as a string, but in C# we have. Okay, so this is the primitive data type for storing a string. Then here we let's give a name to our method. After that now this one will return happy birthday. Okay, so in this class we have a method and happy birthday. The name of our method is get message, but we could have called it almost anything we like. Okay, in the same way, now the get message is just a name given by us. Actually you can give any name here. Okay, any name you can give. The method is going to return a string. Notice that we have made the method public, a public method or variable set up inside the class, means that it can be seen from the outside. Public in Java, I hope you know the meaning. Public means it can be accessed even outside the class as well. So a button on a form can see it. For example, if you make it private, then it can only be seen from inside of the class. Then now two access modifiers I have mentioned here. One thing is public. Public means that particular method, since we have made this method public, it can be seen even from the outside the class. But if we make this private instead of the public keyword, if I type private here, that means this method is accessible only within the class itself. From outside we cannot access this method. Okay. This is just a normal method, though you covered this in earlier section. The only difference this time is that it's in a class of its own. Now, as a homework, actually I have asked you to study methods section. There you have already studied about methods, but here this get message method is also a method. Only difference here is we have included it within a class. In the next part, you will learn how to create an object from your class. Create objects from your C# classes. Now, this is an example. Our happy birthday. This is an example for our for a class. Now let's see how can we create objects from this particular class. Now that we have added the method to our class, let's turn it into an object. Go back to your form and double click the button you added. This will bring up the code stuff for the button. Now you already know. Let's go to our form and then let's double click on the button. Now cursor is blinking inside these two curly brackets. That is related actually whatever the code you include inside these two curly brackets will be executed when we click the button. Okay. To create an object from a class, you have to set up a variable of that class type. This involves nothing more than typing its name. So type happy birthday, the name we gave to our class. You should see the IntelliSense list appear with your class on it. Now let's put then IntelliSense shows the members beginning from Now let's select happy birthday. Okay, happy birthday. Now the color, you can see this color stands for a class by default in Visual Studio IDE. Press the enter or tab on your keyboard to add the class name to your code. That means once you type just HAP, then it shows the members beginning from HAP. Then you can easily select the happy birthday class, and then by pressing either tab key or by pressing the tab enter or tab key, you can get it like this. Okay. After the class type, you need a name for your variable. Okay. After the class type, you need a name for your variable. This is just like any other variable name, so you can call it almost anything you like, but type birthday message as the name of your happy birthday class variable, and your code will look like this. Okay, then you know how to create variables. From integer data type, you just type int x, then put the semicolon. In the same way, now from the happy birthday, for the time being, just think it as a data type for the time being. Then you create a variable birthday message. Okay, now you can see the green wavy line below birthday message. That is just because we have not yet used that particular variable in our code. So this sets up a variable of type happy birthday with the name birthday message, with the name birthday message. We haven't yet created the object though. All we've done is to tell C# to set up some space in memory to hold the object. Okay, so here what we have done, what we have told to C# is that to just hold some memory to store our object. You create objects with the new keyword like this. Okay, this is how we can create a new object. We use the new keyword. So the name of your variable goes on the left of an equal sign. To the right of the equal sign, you need the new keyword. Type a space and the name of your class again. This time you need a pair of round brackets after the class name. End the line with the semicolon as normal. Okay, add the following line to your code. Then here we put new key, that is a keyword. Then this is how you create an object from happy birthday class. Okay, this is one way of doing this. Okay, you just like when you create an integer variable, one thing is you can declare it as int x. Then in the next line you put x equal symbol 5. Okay, using two lines. It is something like this. You could have done this in this way. This is one way of doing this. Okay, compare this with normal variables you have learned in C#. Okay, then this is the step of declaration. We have declared the variable, and in this step we have initialized that variable. Okay, this is one way. So if you need, you can do it in this way as well. Okay, we can do it in this way as well. Oh, sorry, this way. You can do it in this way as well. You can do it. Okay, now add the following line of code. Then your code should then look like this. That means we have declared the variable, then after that we have initialized. If you prefer, you can keep everything on one line like this. That means here the declaration and initialization has been done using a single line. But bear in mind that you are doing two things at once here: setting up the variable in memory and then creating a new object. Okay, so here using the new keyword we have created a new object, and then here we have declared the variable. Now that we've created an object, we can go ahead and call the one method that is in our class. Now that you have an object or can use the dot notation to call your method. Okay. Inside a message box, type the name of your object, then type a full stop. You should then see the IntelliSense list appear with your method on it. Now we have an object from happy birthday class. Okay, so now here using a message box, I'm going to then this birthday message variable, and this points to our happy birthday object. Therefore, inside the happy birthday object we have get message. Okay, now let's see. You can see. Now I will re-explain what we have done so far. We created a class called happy birthday. Inside the class we have included a method. Now using this class we can create any number of objects. Okay, here what I have done is I created, using the new keyword, I created an object, and that object, the memory location of that object was stored in birthday message variable. So now birthday message variable points to the object we created. Okay, so now using birthday message dot, using the dot operator, we can access the members of the object we have created. So get message is inside our object, therefore birthday message dot gets message we could access. That is why you have seen that particular message in a message box. Okay, the reason why it's there is because you made your method public. If you had made it private, then the method wouldn't show up on the list from outside class, because you could see this in the IntelliSense, just because now in IntelliSense you can see get message. So what happens if I made this private? What is going to happen? Then you do not see get message method in the IntelliSense, because that method is not accessible from here. That is private. Private means this method can be accessed only within the happy birthday class itself. From outside it is not accessible. Therefore let's keep it as public. And now you can see get message. Get message, that is a method, therefore you have to include that parenthesis as well. Add the method to your code and you should have this. Okay, it is like this. Run your program and click the button on your form. You should see a message appear. Okay. Congratulations, you created your very first class. In the next part you will learn how to pass values to your classes. Okay, so that is the end of this video. In another video, let's discuss the next part. Okay, and then thank you for watching.